What's going on, guys? Master Tom here, 7th degree black belt, Shaolin Kempo Karate, former amateur world kickboxing champion, and Action Martial Arts Hall of Fame member. Today, we're going to be going over 8-point blocking system. Now, 8-point blocking system is the first blocking system we learn in Shaolin Kempo Karate, but there are so many different variations of 8-point blocking system. We have closed hand with counters, we have open hand counters, we have reverse counters, which is like block with one hand, strike with the other, and obviously you can do that with closed hand, open hand, so there's a lot of different variations up to it. So we'll kind of touch on all those different variations, but I definitely want to get at least to the basics of the 8-point blocking system. 8-point blocking system as a whole are all hard blocks, so when these punches are coming at you, everything's going to be a hard, solid block. It's always taught every block is a strike, every strike is a block. That is at least definitely the case with the 8-point blocking system, as these strikes are meant to basically come at the limb and limb destruction. I'm trying to attack that limb. One way it's explained to me, and I have actually, and you'll see as we get through the other blocking system videos of all our different ways of basically describing the videos. And one way I like to look at is a train is going down the tracks and we got to stop this train. 8-point blocking system is like putting a giant brick wall in front of that train and smashing it and meeting it head on. And that's like the 8-point blocking system. So let's get into the blocking system and then we'll get into more details about it. All right, guys, so let's get into 8-point blocking system. So traditionally first it's taught in a horse stance, right? Now, again, I think in previous videos with me talking about the blocking systems, traditionally it's taught in the horse stance with your hands in chamber, and we're here. We're not practicing that, guys. 2025, we're not practicing with our hands in the chamber. We're going to practice start hands up on guard, and we're going to practice our combinations, our 8-point blocking system from here. So 8 different blocks. Really, there's only 4 blocks, one with each hand. So we're here in our horse stance. Number 1 block. By the way, all of these blocks, we're going to be using our radius bone here or ulna bone here, and those are going to be the striking points of our block. So we're not trying to use the outside of our forearm or the inside of our forearm. We're trying to use these bones here, radius and ulna bone here, okay? So keep that in mind as you guys are doing these blocks. Again, these are attacks also. So there is a little bit of conditioning with these blocks. So when you first start doing these blocks against an opponent and you strike in someone's arm, you're going to be like, that hurts me just as much as it hurts them. Eventually you'll get conditioned to it and you'll be a little bit more, okay with those strikes and that feeling. So you guys are here in your horse stance here. I'm going to be on guard. Number 1 block. We already, right off the bat, we already have controversy in number 1 block, but we'll get there. So number 1 block from here, traditionally it's taught with like an ice cream scoop, and you do this big scoop here. This is a really great way and great teaching tool to block and see your motion. But again, if we're doing it from hands on guard, it's just going to come across here, and we're just blocking. I'm blocking only the outside silhouette of myself. So don't let your blocks come out and go out too far. So I'm just going to be here. It's just blocking the outside of my silhouette. I'm going to have a slight angle here, so I don't want to be too close to here. And I'll show you why in a little bit. But you want to have a slight block here, slight outward block. 1, 2, 3, come across. 4, come across. 5, overhead. 6, overhead. 7, down. 8, down. Okay, so let's do it one more time. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's get into the details a little bit more of these blocks. I'm going to leave 1 and 2 towards the end. So let's get to 3 and 4. Well, let's get to 3 and 4 first. You ready? So number 3 block, coming across this way. Again, I'm going to angle my hand. So if you guys are here, so I'm going to come over here so you guys can see. I'm not keeping my arm straight up and down perpendicular. It's going to have out a little bit this way. So as I'm coming across, I'm coming out and down this way. Boom, 3 and 4. I'm having a slight downward angle as well. So I'm going to bring in, actually, Sensei Rob here, just to demonstrate some of these. So if punch is coming in, whether it's right hand, left hand, in general, good rule, by the way. Again, rules in martial arts are always meant to be broken, but in general, we have to follow the general rules. And then once you know those rules, you can break those, but you're not allowed to break those rules until you have a good understanding of the base rule first. So good rule of thumb is, if Rob's punching with this hand, I'm going to block with this side of this hand. If Rob's punching with that hand, I'm blocking with this side. That's a good rule. Again, you could always break those rules later on. So if Rob's throwing this punch at me, a 3 block, coming across here, I want to block on the same side. Again, if I'm blocking on this side, this leaves this hand open to defend against this strike if this strike is coming in, whatever block we're doing. So if I block across, and he throws his punch and I block across this way, that leaves me open. So you got to watch out for that. So in general, same side. Rob throws his punch. I'm blocking across and slightly down. It's not knocking him down like this, but I do want to have that slight downward motion to it. When I'm blocking here and I'm blocking across, it doesn't matter so much on the outside of the arm, but if I did go across and I was blocking here, and I blocked and I kept his arm very square and I catch the inside of his elbow, this tends to now let him wrap around and catch me with a hook punch wrapping around. So I always want to have this slight angle, so even if I do catch the inside of the crook of his elbow here, this arm wraps here and not catching me across the face. So 3 and 4, as this punch comes in, I'm blocking slightly down. The next one, boom, blocking slightly up, across and down. 5 and 6, we're not making a straight roof over our head. One, we're not putting our hand on our head, so I hope no one's doing this, but we also don't want to keep this very square. I don't want this perpendicular over my head this way, or parallel, horizontal, however you want to call it. I want to have a roof. Basically, I'm making a roof of a house. I want the snow to go, or the rain to come down the sides of my roof. I want his fist and his arm to slide down my roof as well. One, it's a little bit structurally stronger, and 2, it just keeps his arm away from my head and doesn't let this collapse, especially if he catches a little bit more closer to my wrist, my hand will tend to collapse in, right? So I don't want that. So if I bring my hand very square to my head and block in here and he catches my wrist, that's still coming down on me. So I want to come up. Again, I'm meeting him. I'm tacking his arm. So it's not just, oh, no, don't hurt me, and I'm putting my hand here and letting him hit me. No, as he punches, bang, I'm coming up and meeting that. Boom. Making his roof here. This elbow is important. Watch this elbow. Not here. See the space between his elbow and my ear? No good. Here. So when I'm blocking here, bang. This is the block here. This is close. Again, skeleton and muscular structure here. Here, my shoulder, look at how far away I am. This, again, becomes weak. So if I square here, weak. So I want to be here. This, everything tight, ear, shoulder to ear. It doesn't have to be touching, but it has to be close. He throws the other hand. Here's your number 6 block. Bang. Same thing. Okay, so I have this here. Boom. I'm kind of hiding behind my shoulder, behind my arm here. 7 and 8. A little bit of, people always question 7 and 8, whether I'm blocking down. Oh, I don't want to put my arm down if Rob's throwing a roundhouse kick at me, and I don't want to be blocking low and putting my arm down and he can kick me, or even front kick, whatever. People tend to, these downward blocks, people tend to feel are dangerous. So they can be used for a low shot. So if Rob is throwing like a cross to my body or something like that, I can be just knocking this down this way. But it can still be off of a kick. Again, rules are, a good rule of thumb is to not be just putting your arms down here below your belt and blocking down here. I should rather be doing leg checks and things like that. But sometimes it does happen, and sometimes if I do know the rules, and I am putting my arm down and I know the risks. Obviously, if Rob throws a front kick and I'm like, hey, I'm going to block this kick and not know these risks, and Rob throws this punch right after and my hand's down, I'm going to eat it. But if I do know my risk and Rob throws that kick and, I'm moving off to the side, and now I'm aware that even though I'm dropping his hand for that block, I'm aware of that situation. I'm prepared for any strikes that he's throwing. So always keep that in mind too. So 7 and 8, same thing. I want to use my ulnar bone here. And as he kicks or punch or whatever it is, if it's a roundhouse kick, don't block like this, guys. If he throws a roundhouse kick, don't just block the roundhouse kick like that, shin against your forearm. That's no good. It's not a winning battle. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But 7 and 8 are just generally blocking down and away, and again, just past the outside silhouette of your body. You don't have to go like this and be like, oh my God, get away from me. It's not that. I just need to block it past my silhouette of my body. It doesn't have to be any further than that. You're also probably noticing, and we didn't get to 1-2, we're going to get to 1-2 in a second. I'm moving a lot with my hips. So a lot of times, we'll come back here by myself for a second. If we're here in a horse stance, right? A lot of times when I'm doing these blocks, my hips are moving. Even though I'm still in my horse stance, I'm still moving my hips. But take these blocks now. Obviously, you're not going to be fighting in a horse stance. I'm not going to be like, hey, Rob, we're going to spar today, and I'm going to be in my horse stance, and we're going to spar like this, and I'm going to be doing my blocks. No. And you're going to be standing here, and you're going to be in your fighting stance, and you're going to be blocking. You're going to be doing your blocks from here. So practice them that way. Practice them in your horse stance. Practice them in your half moon stance. Practice them in your spar, and practice them however you practice them, but practice them in different stances. Getting into the 1 and 2 block. So now here's where I say a little bit of controversy, but you can almost apply these to a lot of different of the other blocks as well. So 1 and 2. So we're here on guard. I'm using my radius bone right on top here. That's how I always remember too. Radius begins with an R, right on top. Ulna is underneath. Begins with a U, it's underneath. Anyway, so you're here. Punch is coming in. My number 1 block. I can turn my hips. You have 2 ways to do this with number 1 block. I can turn my hips into the block, or I can turn my hips away from the block. Which one is correct? They're both correct. Which one do you use? Practice both. That's my answer to that. So, and this is what I was saying, controversy. I don't know if controversy is the right word, but there's some more details to the 1 and 2 block. So if I'm standing in a straight horse stance and I'm just doing like this ice cream scoop block with no hip movement, sure, you don't have to worry about it. But when we start practicing realistically, you're going to have hip movement. Where your hips go, so I can turn into the block or I can turn away from the block. Doesn't matter so much. What does matter is your next technique after that. So obviously, if I have Rob in front of me, and we're here, and he's throwing, like, we're just going to throw a hook punch for now, just for practices. So right now for demonstrations. Rob's throwing his hook punch, right? I can turn into it. Obviously, again, this is a strike. We're striking. We're not like, hey, I'm trying to get away. So I'm turning, bang, I want to strike his arm, boom. I want to turn my hips into it. Now, if I turn my hips into it, this hip is loaded and cocked back. So my next strike now is going to come from this direction. So now here's where the counters come into play, right? So we have 8-point block with the counters. So now from here, I'm going to strike from here. My hip is loaded. Bang! I can come right back. Now my hip is loaded here. Now I come back and I unload that hip. And here's my power strike. But if I throw this block and I kind of move away, and now I turn my hips this way, well, now this hip isn't loaded. I can throw a strike from here, but it's not going to have as much power as if I threw a strike from this hand now. So if I was here and I moved, boom, here, now my next strike, bang! Now my hip comes back this way, and now I'm loaded, unload that hip. So you guys can practice your 8-point blocking system, 1 and 2, turning into it, here, turning into it, or turning away and turning away. Both are correct. You guys, again, practice both, play around with them, play around with what you do after those. But there's also one more part of that 1 and 2 block, is when you go into open hand. Well, when you do an let's rewind for a second and go to open hand blocks, and then we'll go back to that other part that I was going to touch on. So if you have open hand 8-point blocking system now, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 and 8, these are chops, these are shudos, they're not palm blocks. Those are different blocks, different blocking systems. So these are just kind of chopping away. Again, I wouldn't chop a roundhouse kick away, but if I was moving, again, you have to move with these blocks. You can't just stay here and just block everything. So again, 1 and 2, on open hand, you could do 2 different ways. I could do it where my ridge is out this way and my shudo's on this side. Boom. So 1 and 2. Or I can do 1 and 2. Which ones, and again, we can play around with the hips, which way you turn the hips, that's fine. But 1 and 2 could be palm forward or palm towards you. So the same thing can be done with closed hand. So you can do palm towards you, or on 1 and 2, or you can do palm away. So, and a lot of times in American Kempo, we'll do palm away. And again, doesn't matter which, like if you said which one's right, which one's wrong, they're both right, practice in both ways. So again, it matters what you're doing afterwards. So if I got Rob again here, so Rob throws this punch, and I block here, my counter off this, I want rotation, right? So not only do I want my hip to be loaded, but I want rotation into that. But if I'm here and I block this way and I block out with this bone and I do palm out, now I want rotation again. So how do I rotate my hand here? I'm going to turn this way now. Now this turns into a hammer. Now this turns into a chop. You can even do a palm if you wanted to, but I'm coming from here and now I'm coming rotating in. So if I'm palm out, I rotate in. If my palm's towards me, I rotate this way. So just kind of some different ideas. So again, you can have, when you're doing your number 1 and 2, whether it's open hand or closed hand, you can have palm towards you, palm away, but have some rotation. So if palm's towards you, rotate it this way. Palm's away from you, rotate it this way. So there's different ways to practice those. So let's go and do a quick review for a second. So 8-point blocking, closed hand blocks. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Open hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then now we have the counter strike. So let's get into the counters. So 8-point blocking system, closed hand blocks, closed hand counters. So you're going to be here. 1, rotate, front punch. 2, front punch. 3, back to knuckle. 4, back to knuckle. 5, hammer strike to the ribs. 6, hammer strike to the ribs. 7, rising sun fist right under the chin. 8, rising sun fist. So let's do it one more time. So 1, front punch. 2, front punch. 3, back to knuckle. 4, back to knuckle. 5, hammer. 6, hammer. 7, punch. 8, punch. All your strikes come from right where your hand is. So you're not going to go block, bring your hand back on guard. Wherever your hand is, strike from there. Wherever your hand is, strike from there. Let's do open hand. So open hand counters. 1, poke. 2, poke. 3, chop. 4, chop. 5, just like combination 4, spin and rake. 6, spin and rake. 7, chicken wrist. 8, chicken wrist. You could do the chicken wrist. You've noticed I might have done one this way, one this way. You can play around with the chicken wrist as you come up, either straight up or out to the side. 1 and 2, especially on open hand, but close hand too. If I did one block and I did a palm out, then my poke turns this way, right? So if I do 1, poke turns this way. If I do it this way, then my poke is palm down. Boom, palm down. So this is a heaven poke. Boom, here. This is a earth poke. So heaven and earth, those are the different pokes. Those are the open hand counters. You can start getting crazy where you do closed hand reverse. So where you hear now, instead of doing 1 and striking from where your hand is with the same hand, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. 1, you're still doing front punch. 2, front punch. 3, back to knuckle. 4, back to knuckle. 5, hammer. 6, hammer. 7, rising sun. 8, rising sun. Open hand. Reverse would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is just block, rake. We don't have to do any spins or anything like that. 6, same thing, rake. 7, chicken wrist. 8, chicken wrist. So one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So those are the open hand reverse. And again, if you did palm open, you could do your poke this way if you wanted to do that instead of this. So you can play around with that. So a lot of information there, I know. So those are the 8-point blocking systems. Again, practice in your horse stance. Practice in your practice in your horse stance just to get the concept down and the general material down, memorization. Then start practicing half moon stance. Practice against a partner. Practice different strikes. Don't just practice, okay, Rob, like this is, level 1 is just memorizing it. Level 2 would be stand with your partner here, and Rob's going to throw a punch, and I'm going to do number 1. He's going to throw a punch, I'm going to do number 2. I'm going to do number 3. I'm going to do number 4. Now, when I'm doing these, I'm not maliciously trying to hurt Rob, but he's feeling I'm trying to put my ulnar bone and my radius bone. When he attacks, I'm just giving him that little extra oomph. So he attacks, boom. Here he throws a punch low, boom, boom. That's great. Practice it like that. Now, then practice with the counters. He throws a punch, boom, counters, right? Go through your whole sequence. But then start practicing, okay, Rob, me and you're going to get in a fighting stance. Now Rob's just going to throw, he's going to throw jabs at me the whole time, and I'm just going to work on just bang, just knocking these out, bang, just here, bang, and just work on that. Take another block, work on that, and just go like that. Okay, Rob, throw front kicks at me the whole round, and I'm just going to be working on, boom, blocking those kicks. And again, don't block. I'm not going to stand here. I'm using horse stance as an example just for over-exaggeration, but I'm not just going to stand here and be like that. No, he throws that front kick, boom, I'm stepping off to the side, I'm blocking. So don't just stand in front of him, put your arm down and block. Make sure you're moving with those blocks. Then start into strikes. Start doing it where Rob throws a strike. Now, Rob throws a strike at me, block, strike back, boom, boom, I'm here, boom, boom. There's my reverse counters, boom, Rob throws a mouse, bang, bang. Just work on blocking with the same hand strike, block with the opposite hand strike, play around with it. So practice your blocking system in your horse stance to memorize it. Then start taking it out of that horse stance and start applying it to real life situations and sparring situations and things like that. So this way you get better understandings of those blocks. Again, these are the 8-point blocking. So these are hard blocks. These are, like I said, trains coming down the tracks. You're going to stop this thing with a big, giant brick wall and just smash those arms out of the way. or those kicks out of the way with your blocks, and those are the 8-point block system. Hard blocks, attacks, every block is a strike, every strike is a block. And that, guys, is 8-point blocking system. Those.